Boxing Lowdown, and welcome to episode 8 of the TBL podcast. I'm delighted once again to be joined by my dad, Mr. Laurie from AFTV. New combination there, man.
The head, you see the head movements on point.
Yeah, I'll see it, man. I'll see it. How's it been, man? I mean, good weekend of boxing last week. Obviously, we were very interested in Dubois and Joyce, which took place. We're not really going to talk much about Tyson and Jones, but we will talk about Daniel Dubois against Joe Joyce. A lot of reaction to the manner of the defeat from Daniel Dubois, man. Obviously, very anticipated fight going in, and very good fight. It was back and down, like up and forth, and like from the offset, Joe Joyce established the jab. We saw Daniel Dubois' eye get really in a bad way from round 6 onwards. And then in round 10, he took the knee, basically saying, no mas, no more. And that was it. Daniel Dubois quits. He has his first defeat. And he's come in for a lot of criticism I've seen over the last week or so. And there have been some people like Anthony Joshua that have, come to his aid. But I've seen a lot of the fighters come out and criticize him. And it's brought this debate about quitting in boxing again. And when you consider the situation and the circumstances, as a human, you can understand it. But when it comes to the fighters, I guess they look at it in another way. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I said to you in the immediate aftermath of the fight that this so-called dumping on people that quit, I just find it ridiculous, man. I mean, the guy's got a serious eye injury. He's only 23 years old. To me, he did the right thing. Now, that might not sound, straight out of the Braveheart films and Rocky films and all that, where you see them, fictional characters getting punched around the ring and they got one eye out there, the other one, but yet they still come through to it. This is real life. All those people that are gassing up and chatting, go talk to Anthony Ogogo about his experiences, man. The amount of eye operations he's had, the nerve damage that he suffered. The guy's virtually blind in one eye. Yeah, I saw a very good interview with him. Shout out to Coogan and all them, man, there, IFL, where Anthony Gogo was talking extensively about some of the horrific experiences he's gone through. He said he was suicidal at one point over that. You know what I mean? So I have no problem at all. The guy was losing the fight anyway, okay, in my view.
Not on the official scorecards, it wasn't.
Fight on the cards. You knew the trajectory of that fight was changing, yeah? And they still had, 3 rounds or whatever to go? You know what I mean? What's more important, going the distance or possibly saving your eye? We now know that he was told by one of the consultants that if he'd have carried on, there was a strong possibility he could have lost that use of that eye. And then his career would have been over. Then we would have been talking about a man that's half blind. But some people just want to satisfy their bloodthirsty whims. And, I heard some of these boxers coming out and chatting the most unbelievable crap. You know what I mean? I'm just very disappointed, man. I mean, the guy suffered a fractured eye socket and nerve damage to his eye. That is a very serious injury. It's not like a broken jaw. And I'm not trying to belittle a broken jaw, obviously. It's not a broken nose. It's not a broken jaw. It's not a broken hand. It's your eyes we're talking about, one of the most sensitive areas of our body. So people need to stop it, man.
Can you understand where fighters are coming from with that whole quitting, because they're bred different. They're bred different than we are. As humans, we can look at it and be like, look, it's his eye. But like as fighters, they're built differently, aren't they?
Yeah, they are built differently, but it's the man's eyes. Listen, if a guy wants to carry on and lose his eye in the ring, then I guess that's his volition. But I'm saying, do not criticize a man when he's in that situation, because most of us have never been there for a start. And I just don't think it's fair. You know what I mean? I don't go along with this, getting carried out the ring and I didn't quit and all that. Come on, man.
Do you know what someone said to me? They said to me, and this is somebody that just watches the boxing, like they said to me, that Dubois was built up as, he's built up as a monster, built up as this freak train, steamrolling everybody, blah, 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 Dubois rolling through every man. And then the way how it ended, how he just took the knee like that, kind of just turned away, he took the knee from a jab. It didn't, to us watching, it didn't look, obviously we know his eye was in a bad way, but it didn't look to us like, wow, man, like he's taking punishment, he just literally just took the jab, took the knee. It was very surprised to everybody. Can you understand from his point of view where he's coming from, where it's just like an unsatisfactory ending? You know, he's built up as this like machine, and then he goes out in that particular way. Or do you not see it from his view at all?
No, I must be honest, man. I don't see it. I mean, we know now that the eye was damaged from as early as the second round, and it was swelling up throughout. He took a lot of damage to the eye, and all the reports coming out saying that the eye was badly damaged. And I think at that moment when that last final shot landed, I thought he genuinely, you see, this is what people got to remember as well. He's 23, he's in his first big fight. At that point where the punch, listen, only he knows, but I'm speculating to say that maybe when that punch landed, he genuinely thought his eye was gone or something to that, you know what I mean, effect. And I think he quit. He obviously quit because he could have carried on, but he chose not to. But what I'm saying is I'm not going to dump on him for that, because 99% of us have not been in that situation. And I've heard guys, boxers said, yeah, I've fought with a broken jaw and I've had a busted. It's not the same injury, bro. It's not. A broken jaw, and listen, shout out to those guys who have fought through that type of injury, because I've heard it, you know, the pain can be excruciating, and obviously there's damage to your jaw, you know what I mean? But it's not in the same ballpark as you losing your eye, suffering a detached retina, or, you know, it's just not, man. So I didn't dump on Kell Brook when he did it, and I'm not going to do it to Daniel Dubois here. Because as I said to you before, there's so many ways that a boxer can quit if he really wants out of there, you know what I mean? You've seen fighters in the past go down from the so-called phantom body punch, and they claiming they got hit low. We've seen fighters, you know, get up at the count at 9.9 and then somehow claim that, oh, they mistimed the count or the referee counted too quickly. We've seen guys cover up on the ropes and get stopped. We've seen guys go down from shots that people like me and you look at it and aesthetically we think, hang on, that didn't look that hard. And they've stayed down, and then some people have called them quitter. We've seen guys that have deliberately fouled to get out of fights. That's another form of quitting, you know what I mean? We've seen guys that they've been taking a bit of a shellacking, and the referee said, do you want to go on? And they don't answer. So they're basically waiting for the referee to pull them out.
Victor Ortiz against Andre Berto.
Yeah, man, listen, man, I could go on for, like I was saying to you the other day, man, I could draw a long list of fighters who are deemed to have quit. Not just people like me and you saying, I'm saying what the public have deemed to have quit. And some of them are great fighters, man. You know what I mean? So on any given night, you could suffer an injury or have such a bad performance that you think to yourself, discretion is the better part of valor. And I don't have a problem with that, because you can live to fight another day. Not everyone's Rocky Marciano. Not everyone is Muhammad Ali. Even within boxing, they are brave guys to even get in the ring. You know what I mean? And put their life on the line. Doesn't mean to say you have to be carried out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One thing I thought was pretty hypocritical was Eddie Hearn's comments. I thought he was quite disrespectful to Daniel Dubois. And do you know what? Just as I say that, there's a bit of breaking news here just come through on my phone, and it's a Frank Warren interview, and he's basically said that he can't see himself working with Eddie Hearn now as a result of those comments, what he said about Daniel Dubois. I think that pissed Frank Warren off so much that he said, you know what, forget the whole Matchroom Queensbury show. We're not going to do it. So obviously he's very offended by those comments. I think they're a bit rich coming from Eddie Hearn. For one, he's not a fighter. And for two, Kell Brook went through the same thing. You didn't discredit Kell Brook like that. I think Eddie Hearn's a bit out of order there for those comments, in my opinion. I do like him, but those particular comments that he made, I thought were out of order.
Disgusting comments, man. From a guy that's never been in a ring and fought. You know what I mean? He's a good promoter. Yes, we all know that. But you need to take boxers' names out your mouth with that shit, man. That's proper disrespectful. You know what I mean? I've got
It's
no
kind
time.
of questioning the validity of it, wasn't it? Like, oh,
Yeah.
was it? Was he? Oh, I don't know. It looked like a swelling to me.
And he should
I was
know
like, come
better
on,
than
man.
that. He should know better than that, because
Yeah,
when
he should.
when he lost to Ruiz, there was a lot of people, saying that AJ spewed it that night, turned it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So these guys, man, they're just, they're just.
One thing I will say about Anthony Joshua as well, he was one of the few boxers to come out and publicly back Daniel Dubois, which I found interesting, really, because if anything, I've seen in the past Daniel Dubois kind of take a few shots at AJ. So I thought it was very mature of him to come out and say, you know, if like you need someone to talk to, you could talk to me. He didn't have to do that, you know, because look at some of the other people that have been dissing Dubois this week. Dillian White, Billy Joe Saunders kind of went at him. Tom Little, Tyson Fury.
It all started on the night with Carl Frampton.
Carl Frampton, David Hay.
Very disrespectful what he was saying there, man. Very. And listen, I've got to bring this out, man. I'm gonna call him out on his bullshit. Carl Frampton, right, is a very good fighter. Yeah. So I'm not dissing him for that, and I'm not like calling him a coward or anything like that. But where was this bravery when you were supposed to fight Rigondeaux, bro? You know what I mean? You openly admitted on that you ducked Rigondeaux. You know what I mean? Daniel Dubois took on a challenge like that at 23 years old. It was his first big fight. You know what I mean? He's up there in the lights taking on Joe Joyce. What, you know what I mean? Frampton could be accused of cowardly ducking Rigondeaux. He went years. He didn't want to go near Rigondeaux. He even admitted it. I saw an interview where he said, I'm not ready for Rigondeaux. I'm going a different path. Right? And then when he got called out on it, then he tried to change it slightly by saying, Rigondeaux's not bringing enough money to the table. A clear duck. Ask anybody that knows about boxing. So I got really annoyed when I heard this man openly on TV dissing Dubois like that. He needs to apologize to the guy, man. Yeah. Because Carl Frampton, as good a fighter as he is, he's never been through that type of injury. He hasn't. I've seen all these fights. You know what I mean? Yeah. So stop it, bro, because you never know what the law of averages or the way karma works is he might get a similar injury himself. He's still boxing. You know what I mean? You shouldn't do things like that. You know what I mean? It's very disrespectful.
I think there was a lot of bandwagon jumping like last week. And I'm not defending Dubois, like, you know what I mean? I'm not his, like, I'm not his biggest fan.
I am defending Dubois' right.
What I will say,
hang on, let me finish. I'm defending Dubois' right to say he does not want to box anymore because of the eye injury that he sustained and suffered, and he's thinking more long term. So I am defending. I'm not saying that everyone should do what he done, because I'm sure, you know, I mean, there are lots of guys who probably would have carried on and taken that risk. But I'm saying that if he seriously considered that his eye was in danger, then I've got no problem in doing what he was doing. He was losing the fight anyway. You know what I mean? Vitaly Klitschko quit with when he done his shoulder against Chris Bird in a fight that he was winning, right? And he got hella stick over it. A year later, the man's eye was hanging off his face when he fought Lennox Lewis, and you could see he wanted to go on. So that's what I'm saying. On any given night, something like that can happen. So, you know, sorry, you go.
No, I agree, and I just thought there was a lot of bandwagon jumping. You know, like people tend to jump on things when in situations when someone's down, it's very easy to jump on someone. And I saw Tom Little come out, and I'm like, yo, Dubois, I've rolled over you, man. What are you on about? And then Nathan Gorman, I'll fight Dubois. I'm just like, come on, man.
I saw Tom Little against Babbage. He quit. He could have got up, in my view, but he was getting beaten to a pulp in that fight. He was getting beaten to a pulp, right? And he stayed down and took the count. He could have got up. He didn't want to get up, man, because the animal was all over him, pounding him from pillar to post. And then what does he do the next day? He announced his retirement because he knew he quit in that fight. Now, listen, I'm not saying he wasn't right to do what he did, because he clearly wasn't winning. He was getting battered. And, you know what I mean? What was the point, really? Babbage had already proven himself overwhelmingly and comprehensively to be the better fighter from start to finish. And to me, he put it on Tom Little, right? And to me, he looked like he could have got up. He chose not to. So And now you're gonna dump on somebody, a guy that's thrashed him, by the way, and then say stuff like that. It's just man.
Yeah. But let's talk about the winner, man. Let's talk about Joe Joyce, because listen, it was a very good win for him. He was the underdog going in. We both backed against him. Put in a great before. I thought his jab was brilliant. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of when Winky Wright fought Tito Trinidad, where he literally won that fight off the jab. And it was like Joe Joyce was similar. He had good footwork and his jab was just doing the damage from round one. And good win for him. He picks up the titles now, the Commonwealth European titles, and he moves on to the world level. So all credit to Joe Joyce. I know someone that put, shout out to Kirk Raymond, who'll be watching, he put 20 quid on Joe Joyce round 10. He got a nice little bit of chunk of change from that, man. So fair play to him.
Yeah, man. Like you said, excellent performance by Joe Joyce. Listen, man, I've rated Joe Joyce highly for a long time now. I remember when he first turned pro and he was getting in wins, and we used to talk about him, and I was going on about the name, how the name his nickname, the Juggernaut, was so appropriate as a moniker for him because of the way that he fights. He basically just runs over people in the ring. But it's funny because on this occasion, he didn't actually do that, did he? He was a lot more subtle and slick. He showed a lot more skills because obviously he took the threat of Daniel Dubois seriously. You know what I mean? And fair play to him and his team. They got their tactics exactly right. They drew the sting from Dubois, the way he was riding the shots. And we all said, didn't we, that even though we predicted Dubois, the common consensus was is if this fight goes over 6 rounds, you're entering into that Joe Joyce territory, which Daniel Dubois had really ventured into. And so he showed. Listen, man, enough respect to Joe Joyce, man. He deserves all the plaudits he's getting. And I wouldn't bet against him being a champion. Because on any given night, man, he could present a real problem for whoever's in front of him.
Well, even the top 2?
Yeah, I mean, listen, man, if he's fighting a Fury or a Joshua and he's able to absorb, you know, the big shots or whatever, and he's still there 8, 9, 10, who's to say that he couldn't, you know, sort of turn on the gas, man, and get a win over those guys? Your heavyweight boxing is such that it's very hard to predict sometimes, you know? So, yeah man, shout out to Joe Joyce. Excellent performance. Shout out to his team who developed the game plan. And he obviously executed it. Shout out to Sam Jones, who believed in his fighter all the way through. He rubbed some people up the wrong way, Sam Jones, but personally I like him because he's the perfect fit for Joe Joyce, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's a bit like the Angel Garcia and Danny Garcia thing, whereby the person in your team does more talking than the actual fighter, but the fighter backs it up.
Yeah.
So it works, you know? So
do you know who I'm happy for? Happy for Joe Joyce's mum, man. I like his mum. You know, she did the interview afterwards. Daniel Dubois said a few disrespectful comments towards Joe Joyce's mum in the build-up about her being blind. She was there. She was cheering on her son. Joe Joyce got the win. And then she did an interview after, man. I thought it was nice to hear from her.
I'm glad you brought that up. So what did Dubois actually say that was disrespectful? I mean, did he know that she was...
Yeah, I'm sure he said something like... It was at the press conference. I can't remember word for word, but at the press conference earlier on, he said something like she won't be able to see his son getting a beating or something. For anyone watching, feel free to correct me because I could be wrong, but it was something along those lines where he said something like she wouldn't be able to see his son get a beating, like, or whatever. Something like that. And she was in the audience when he was there.
Again, I used the word karma a few minutes ago. Now, if you did say that, then I'm sorry, but you know what I mean? Like, that's karma again, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, there's no need to be disrespectful like that, man. You know what I mean? He's there to engage in a fight with Joe Joyce. Why are you even bringing up the man's mum?
It was a very awkward, like, I don't know. It was a very awkward, like, situation. Like, I don't know if he didn't realize it or what.
Did he know that she suffers?
I need to see it again. It was along those lines. He did definitely say something about Joe Joyce's mum and her side. 100%. He said something.
Okay. I didn't see the comments, so I would rather not speculate. But if he did say that, and if he was out of pocket with those comments, then again, karma, man. I'm a big believer in karma, you know, because karma is the kind of thing that it doesn't hit you straight away. You know what I mean? but it will catch up to you. If you talk reckless out your mouth and you treat people a certain way, then 9 times out of 10, man, you will get karma at some point in your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of these boxers talking sideways out their mouth, dissing Dubois. And let's face it, even Dubois himself, when Joshua lost.
Yeah, he said a lot. He said Dillian Whyte lost.
When Dillian Whyte lost, he was calling him out, which I found strange because I'm thinking the guy's just got knocked out and you're calling him out. Surely you should be calling out the victor, which was Povetkin.
I thought that was out of order. Dillian Whyte was barely up. He was still knocked out when he tweeted that.
Yeah. And that's why Dillian went in so hard on him the other day. And when Dillian did that, I couldn't really say, even though I wouldn't have done it myself, because Dillian he's his own man. He's got his own unique way of dealing with things. It's not the type of thing that me and you would have said, but he's basically calling Dubois and Frank Warren the C word, and he was going in hard. So if you was to say to Dillian, boy, that's a bit out of order, he will then turn around and say, well, listen, when I got knocked out, these men were laughing at me. So I think that's right, in the heavyweight division, the only one that, to me, conducts himself in a proper way is Anthony Joshua. Fury, Dillian, Dubois, and Joe Joyce, I'd add to that as well. But a lot of these other guys, man, they're too quick to throw shade. They need to just focus on their careers, man. And
they all do it, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, listen, man, you can be charismatic and entertaining and fan-friendly without going down that disrespectful route. You know?
Yeah. Let's talk about the 2 other heavyweights quickly. We won't talk about it too long, man. But did you watch it? You watched it, didn't you? Tyson and Jones.
You know what? I did. I said to you that I had no interest.
You were, man.
I had no interest in it before. I've got no interest in it now. I saw somebody sent me a link with the whole fight, and I think I watched. And I'm going to be honest now. I think I watched about a minute and a half of the first round. I mean, I couldn't tell you. People tell me that Tyson looked half decent for a few rounds and that he should have won it, and that Roy was tired and holding. But you know, come on.
Do you know what the most entertaining part of that whole fight was?
Yeah, I heard.
Commentary, man.
I heard. Yeah, a lot of people told me that.
Yeah, I think he's going to set up some sort of fight club now where he's going to be commentating on fights. So, listen, fair play to him. He took hold of the opportunity. But, yeah, there's not really much to say on Tyson Jones.
I heard the event, they're saying that it may have done up to 1.2 million pay-per-view buys, which is staggering, really. So in that commercial aspect, it was a tremendous success. And it does kind of reflect badly on boxing when you think about it, that 2 guys in their 50s with a chief support of a YouTuber knocking out a guy that had never put on a pair of gloves before is amongst the highest pay-per-view numbers in so-called boxing in recent years. You know what I mean? Gervonta Davis going around calling himself a pay-per-view star. I think he did about 230,000 pay-per-views for his fight against Leo Santa Cruz. Tyson and Roy Jones, 2 geriatric ex-boxers in their 50s or mid-50s, they're doing 1.2 million. So clearly something's wrong with the game if that's happening, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's just the way I was going.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So don't be surprised if you see any more. You see, that was one of my worries with this thing. Now that it's been deemed yes, both in the ring and commercially. Now they're all talk. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I heard Lennox Lewis, no less, saying that he might be interested in fighting Riddick Bowe. Oh man, it's.
Holyfield called out Tyson this week.
You know what I mean? It won't be long before Nigel Benn and Eubank announce that they're going to have another fight. You know what I mean? Probably Steve Collins will want some. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not for me, man. Not for me.
Not really for me either, man. I mean, I entertained it because there were 2 legends that I looked up to, but I could just see the route it's going to go down, man. And like, yeah, I can only tolerate it once every now and then, and I tolerate it. But I just know you're right. It's going to spring. Everyone's going to want to do it now. Holyfield just won't let it go, man. Let it go. He's been calling out Tyson for how long? Even after he's beaten him twice. He wants to fight Tyson again. Just let it go, man. Yeah,
I think what it is as well as the money that these guys think they're going to get, I just think that they just can't give up not being in the limelight. You know what I mean? Evander Holyfield's got sons that box. one of his sons turned pro last year or the year before. What he should be doing is, you know what I mean, focusing his efforts and his deep knowledge of the game and his experience and all the clout he's managed to gain in boxing and channeling that into his son. I think it's rather selfish for him to be out here knowing that you've got sons that box and you're calling out Tyson and trying to be that center of attention again. Like you said, give it up, bro. You know what I mean? You were a great fighter. Nothing that you're going to do now will come anywhere close to what you did many years ago. So stop it, man. Just behave yourself. Accept the fact that you grow old gracefully. You know what I mean? Don't be one of these like 55-year-old guys walking around in tight trousers and trying to dress like the young guys. Just allow it, bro. Allow it, man. Allow it.
You beat Tyson twice, didn't you? What do you want to beat him again for?
I just think someone like Holyfield,
he's obsessed with him, isn't it?
Not just obsessed. I just think that they just cannot face not being in the limelight as far as boxing's concerned.
Yeah.
Maybe he feels deep down that he never got the due credit that he should have got when he was fighting. It could be something to do with that. But just find something to do with your life, man. Find peace within yourself. You know what I mean? You haven't got to be validated by you being in the ring. You know what I mean? We know you're a great fighter. And like I said, anything you do now is not going to come anywhere near close to what you achieved when you were fighting before. So, and even then, he went on far too long. And if you listen to Holyfield speak and Tyson, you could clearly hear that these guys are slurring. You know what I mean? It's actually, as well as the aesthetics of it all, it's actually very dangerous to these guys' health.
Yeah.
To be even consider getting punched in the head at 50 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, as I said, my message to those guys, allow it. But will they? Because clearly people are going to start buying into it and buying pay-per-views and the interest that surrounds it.
I think so. Yeah.
It encourages these guys to make a comeback.
I can see it, yeah. But listen, man, let's talk about some real boxing, man. This weekend, we're not going to, first of all, due to the timing of the recording of this podcast, by the time it comes out, Billy Joe Saunders and Martin Murray and that card there would have already happened. So we're not going to preview that. We'll talk about that next week. But we'll talk about Spence-Garcia, a fight that we've been looking forward to for a while now, a very intriguing
What about Yarde?
We'll talk about that as well. Yeah, I'll get onto that. But we'll talk about Spence-Garcia first and then move on to Yarde-Arthur. But Spence-Garcia, like I said, it's a fight that we've been looking forward to for a long time. Very intriguing fight. Errol Spence, you know, on top of the world before he had that car crash a year ago. How much has it taken out of him? He's jumping straight in against a dangerous opponent who feels like he has it all to prove. This is a fantastic fight, man. I think that Errol Spence would have always been the favourite, but Garcia was always recognised as a danger man. Do you know what I mean? Even the two losses that he had to Keith Thurman and Sean Porter, they were very close. And Danny Garcia is coming into this one with the mindset that I like. He's hungry, he wants it, he's called Errol out, he feels he could beat him. How dangerous is this fight for Errol Spence, man? Because we don't know what he's got left after that car crash. I saw the video footage of the accident, and he's really lucky he made it out alive, man. Yeah. How much is that going to have an effect on his body, and like how risky is it to take a Garcia fight now?
You know what? The reality of it is we will not know until they fight. Because I have to say that Errol Spence looks to have got himself into tremendous shape for this fight. But, you know, at the end of the day, the true test will be when he gets hit on the chin. And let's be honest, man, it is a very risky fight for him because Danny Garcia is a good puncher. He's not quite the puncher at welterweight that he was down at light welter, but he can still hit hard. I think it was Keith Thurman who said that of all the fights he's had, including the Pacquiao fight, he said that Danny Garcia hit him the hardest.
Both hands as well.
Sorry?
He's got power in both hands, isn't he?
Got power in both hands. And he's not the greatest boxer, but he's got good timing, Danny Garcia has. You know what I mean? He can be outboxed. He's been outboxed quite a few times in his career. I mean, even Amir Khan was outboxing him until Danny landed that big punch. And he's had problems with guys who can box and move. Lamont Peterson, I thought, beat him. Carlos Herrera should arguably have got a decision over him. Going even as far back as Zab Judah, I thought I was at that fight actually at the Garden when he fought Zab Judah, and Zab did well in that fight. You know what I mean? So he can be outboxed, but he can punch. And then the thing about Danny, which makes this fight very intriguing as well, is that he's got one of the best chins in boxing.
Yeah.
Can you ever remember seeing Danny Garcia being hurt in any fight? I think Keith Thurman might have semi-stumbled in once.
But it wasn't hurt.
Yeah, he looked
wasn't
like briefly.
Wasn't physically, yeah.
So Danny Garcia, he brings a lot of attributes into this fight, man, that could make it very difficult for Errol Spence. You know what I mean? He's a good fighter, tremendously strong. I remember when I went to the Zab Judah fight, I attended the weigh-in, which was a public weigh-in. I remember thinking at the time how big he looked, man, around the shoulders and his upper body and stuff. He's a physical presence. But then so too is Errol Spence, although he is a slightly different frame. He's more lean muscle, but he's very tall for the weight. And he's one of those guys that has to boil himself down to make the weight. So yeah, there's a lot of intangibles in there, man. And I think it makes for a great fight, certainly on paper. I'm really looking forward to it, man. Really looking forward to it. But what I can see is that Errol, based on what I've seen of Errol before, because obviously it's going to be his first time back in the ring since a car accident, I would imagine that Errol is the better boxer. And he can do it all, Errol Spence. He can box at long range. He's an excellent body puncher. He's also physically very strong. He's got a decent punch. I don't think he punches as hard as Danny Garcia, but he did drop Sean Porter. So he can punch. And yeah, man, I think it makes for a great fight. I mean, I'm going for Errol on points. But this fight is going to be competitive for sure. And listen, if Danny Garcia was to win, given what's happened to Errol over the last year or two with the car accident and everything else, and even before then, it has to be said, a lot of people suggesting that he wasn't really living the life of a fighter the way he should have been. This could be an intriguing fight. So if Garcia was to win, it wouldn't be a sort of shock of the Tyson-Buster Douglas proportions, would it?
No.
You know?
No. If I'm Danny Garcia, man, I'm going in there and I'm just going to obviously stick to my game plan, but I'm also going to really test out Errol's body, man. I'm going to hit him on the arms, hit him on the body, hit him on the shoulder, hit him wherever. Just to, you know, like, because it's all good taking it in sparring, but when you're in the ring under the lights with the smaller gloves on, no headgear, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
It's risky, isn't it? It is risky because that accident, I'm picking Errol Spence to win based on what I've seen, just like you. And I think that the points decision win sounds about right, but because I can't see Danny getting stopped. But in my head, I'm just like, you know, Garcia is looking at this like, this is my last chance at it, probably. You know, I've lost title opportunities before to Keith Thurman and Sean Porter, but he felt unjust, especially in the Sean Porter fight. I thought he won that fight, to be fair. Yeah. And against Spence, I've just seen a different attitude from a different mindset, like somebody that really feels like he's going to win this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going in there. I'm sticking to my game plan. I'm testing out that body early. I'm just like hitting the body, hitting the arms, and like letting Errol know, man. So it's going to be interesting.
It's going to be interesting. Yeah, very interesting. I'm looking forward to it immensely. Like I said, man, the tangible is we don't know how good Errol Spence is going to be, because that was quite a horrific car accident. Like you said, he's lucky to be alive. They're bound to have been residual effects of that car crash. I mean, I got involved in a car crash earlier this year, actually. In March this year, I got involved in a car crash, and that was completely minor compared to Errol Spence. And you do suffer whiplash that can affect you for quite some time. I remember I had pains in my back and a headache and stuff like that for some time after. So yeah.
Very good fight, man. I can't wait for that. Like I said, it's been highly anticipated. I'm looking forward to that, man. I'll be staying up for that one. But let's talk about Anthony Yarde and Lyndon Arthur as well, which is taking place tomorrow on this side of the pond. Now, this is a very good fight, man. Another highly anticipated one. Lyndon Arthur, undefeated, Commonwealth light heavyweight champion, good amateur background. So a lot of people don't see it. Well, people within the trade are, but I guess the casuals are kind of looking at, well, who's this guy? Can you enlighten them as to who Lyndon Arthur is?
Yeah, Lyndon Arthur, man, he's a very good fighter, tall for the weight, good boxer, good fundamentals. Was a very good amateur, actually. He was on the GB squad. Unbeaten. He's got decent power himself. Very good jab. And as we've seen in the Daniel Dubois, Joe Joyce fight, the jab, they don't call it the most important punch in boxing for nothing. So if he can get behind his jab and keep it at range, you know what I mean, he will have some success, you know. Anthony Yarde, prodigious talent, excellent puncher, got all the natural gifts. But this will be a big test for him, man. This will be a big test for him.
Yeah.
I know he's knuckling down hard because I'm actually decent mates with Anthony Yarde. He's a big Arsenal fan, and we've done stuff with content with him in the past. And he must be knuckling down because I tried to reach out to him to wish him luck, and he hasn't got back to me. So I'm thinking that is a sign of how locked in he is, man, because I think he knows that Lyndon Arthur presents a real challenge for him. The other thing I like about Lyndon Arthur, he's got Pat Barrett in his corner, who's a former excellent fighter, a good coach. And I think that's exactly the type of personality that Lyndon needs. Lyndon's a bit introverted, although he can handle himself in front of a camera, obviously, but he's a bit introverted by nature. So having someone like Pat Barrett, experienced, knows his way around, former excellent fighter himself, good coach, I think all those things are plus points for Lyndon Arthur. So, yeah, man, I'm looking forward to a really good fight. I might even see Lyndon win in the early rounds, man. Anthony might have to overcome it. You know what I mean? I mean, he's got the experience of the Kovalev fight. Incidentally, a fight in which he was getting peppered up by the jab a little bit in that fight, which caused fire down the stretch. So I'm sure that Pat Barrett and Lyndon Arthur have probably been, even if they don't admit it, you know, a lot of fighters these days, oh, I don't watch tapes. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And I'm sure they would have developed a game plan which is based around Lyndon using his jab and accumulating points and winning rounds, and then forcing Anthony into making mistakes as the fight goes on, in the hope that he's a bit desperate and might leave himself open or get tired. So yeah, man, I can see a very competitive fight, man. I like both guys. Obviously, I'm rooting for Anthony because I like to regard him as a little bit of a mate of mine. I'm not saying I'm like close to him or whatever, man, but yeah, we talk from time to time. So I wish him all the best. Shout out to him and Tunde, man. But it's going to be a hard one. I've got to keep it real, man. And they would appreciate that as well, me saying that, because they know they're boxing. This is a difficult test for him. Certainly on paper.
Lyndon Arthur, like you said, he was on he was on the GB squad as an amateur. You know, fought in the ABAs, and there's a lot of some of the fighters from the team GB squad that are backing Lyndon Arthur in this one, man. They feel like this is his opportunity to break into the big time because he's
in the final of the ABAs to none other than Joshua Buatsi. Yeah, it was a really good fight. So that shows you his credentials, man. You know what I mean? Joshua Buatsi, of course, went on to win the ABAs twice, and he went on to win a bronze medal at the Olympics. And he was probably our best fighter at that last Olympics. So, yeah, man.
One thing I like about Anthony Yarde, though, is that he's had that experience of traveling to Russia, in fighting literally Kovalev in his back garden, basically. He went to where Kovalev, he weren't in Moscow or anywhere like that. He literally went out to where Kovalev was born, fought him there. Okay, he lost the fight, but he's got valuable experience in that defeat, man. He was getting jabbed quite a bit. Hopefully he's worked on that. But he'll be going into this Lyndon Arthur fight. Yeah, he'll be going in as the favourite, but he'll know that Lyndon Arthur has a lot to his arsenal. He'll know that he needs to put on an impressive performance if he wants to get onto that next level. And this is the sort of challenge that I think is good for him at this time. I think it's a very good challenge. And I'm looking forward to it, man. I think that Yarde, for me, I'm going for him late. I think that Lyndon Arthur might build up a points advantage, possibly. He could be even up on the cards. But I just think Yarde might get to him late because I think he's got good fundamentals himself, Anthony Yarde. He doesn't have the amateur background, but he's got very good fundamentals, man. And I do think that that's where the parallels, because I've heard some people say it, that there are some parallels with this fight and Dubois and Joyce, where You can look at Yarde as the explosive fighter like Dubois was, and you look at Yarde-Arthur like a Joe Joyce, where not in terms of styles but in experience. I think
for this fight, Yarde's body attack, and he has got a very good body attack. He's put several people away with body shots on the way up. I think his body attack is going to be crucial to his victory, if he's to get a victory. I think he's got to target the body, try and soften up Lyndon, wear him down, and then try and take over late. Because I don't see an early stoppage, although Anthony does punch very hard. So if he does catch him early, he could stop him early. But yeah, I think the body attack is going to be crucial. He needs to close the distance down, obviously, get inside, bang to the body. Anthony's very physically strong. He needs to put his weight on him a bit. So it's going to be a different fight to a lot of the fights he's had previously. Like I said, man, Anthony Yarde, prodigious talent, works very hard in the gym, as I'm sure Lyndon does. Tunde is a very good coach. So I'm sure they got their game plans all in place. Yeah, man, so could be an excellent fight. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And again, it just brings, again, this schedule that we've got right now. Very good schedule. And we're coming towards the end of the year. And this is another weekend to look forward to, man. Spence-Garcia, Yarde-Arthur and Anthony Yarde, Billy Joe Saunders and Martin Murray. I don't know, like, it would have happened by the time this comes out, but just let us know your initial thoughts on that fight anyway, just before the result.
My initial thoughts is that Billy Joe will have too much for Martin Murray. Martin Murray, very tough guy, had a very good career. I've met Martin Murray before when he was training up with Oliver Harrison. Rest in peace, Oliver Harrison, by the way, up in Manchester all them years ago. Good fighter, strong, good fundamentals. He will give it a go. I wish him well, but I just think that Billy Joe, man, I think he's too good at this stage. Although sometimes Billy Joe doesn't always look the best, but he looks motivated for this fight. I think he knows that he has to look good in this fight in order for him to secure some of the bigger names. So I think he will turn up. So I am picking him to win, but you know,
presuming he has one. Let's say Billy Joe has one. What would you like to see him do next? Should he defeat Martin Murray? Because the super middleweight division is very strong.
One of the names, he has to. His career needs it. His career needs a big name. And I honestly think as well that Billy Joe Saunders is one of those guys. I think he suffers from motivation. I think he's one of those guys where boxing comes fairly easy to him. He was a prodigious amateur, went to the Olympics at 18 years old. He won every title as an amateur in this country anyway. And I think over the years, he can get bored quite quickly. We've seen that in some of his antics outside the ring. So he's very skilled. He's tough. He can punch a little bit too, you know. He can dig when he wants to. So yeah, man, very talented fighter, but hasn't always lived a life. I think you'll be the first one to say that as well. Hasn't always got himself in proper shape for fights, and it's shown. So he's looked quite vulnerable. He's looked like, sometimes you think to yourself, oh man, I thought this guy they said he's supposed to be world class. He didn't look it tonight. But then when he stepped up, so for example, the obvious one was the David Lemieux. And when he fought David Lemieux, I was predicting that he might get beaten. And look, he turned in a world-class performance. Yes, there was that little cloud hanging over it after, when he later tested positive for an unauthorized or illegal substance or whatever it was. He said it was a nasal spray, whatever. Anyway, but in terms of the actual performance against Lemieux.
That wasn't for Lemieux, though. That weren't for Lemieux, was it?
It was later found to have tested, yeah. But what I'm saying is, some people suggesting that he could have been on that for some time. But anyway, taking that away, the aesthetics of the performance against Lemieux, he looked world class that night. He done a number on Lemieux that guys who were deemed to have been better than him haven't done that to Lemieux. So he is capable, man. It's just that we've rarely seen it because I think, anyway, he struggled for motivation. When you don't have those big names fighting and you're fighting guys that you know you can beat quite comfortably, sometimes that's what happens. The performance reflects that. It's a bit like with the Danny Jacobs Rosado.
Just literally just going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
That was like, I mean, that's a classic example right there. Struggling for motivation. And I think that, and listen, I'm not one to tell a fighter what to do with their career, but maybe it could be time for Danny Jacobs to the way of that performance anyway played out. I mean, he's done it all. You know, he's become world champion. He's beaten cancer. He's fought that. He's returned to the ring. He's got nothing to prove. He's clearly not motivated. He's got the 2 big paydays against Triple G and Canelo. Clearly wasn't motivated against Rosado. Would you advise him to hang him up?
I wouldn't necessarily. You see, that's the trouble with boxing. You see, like people say, you're only as good as your last
fight.
I mean, so what I would say about Danny Jacobs is that he clearly overlooked Rosado. He looked down his nose at Rosado. He thought that Rosado was little more than a punching bag, that he was going to go in there. And the first time he really hit Rosado, he was going to fall. But what he didn't count on is that Rosado had got himself in tremendous shape. He's a tough guy anyway, Rosado. I don't quite know why Danny was so confident he was going to bomb him out of there, because the one thing you always say about Gabe Rosado, a bit like your Martin Murrays of this world, they're tough, grizzled veteran, man. They know how to look after themselves in the ring. So, but anyway, it's clear to me, I felt that even in the lead up to the fight, the way he was talking so dismissively of Rosado just gave you that inclination that he was overlooking the man. And so it proved in the ring. And then with Rosado, he obviously taken that fight very seriously. He took himself to Freddie Roach's gym, knuckled down. To be fair to Freddie Roach, who I often accuse sometimes of being a bit overrated, but they obviously got a good game plan. And I watched that fight, man. That could easily have gone to Rosado, that fight. A lot of people who saw the fight said that they thought Rosado should have got it. So
it wasn't a great fight, was it?
No, it wasn't. And I don't see them fighting again because there'll be no demand for it. But it just goes to show what can happen when you don't take your opponent seriously. I listened to a guy talking about the fight, and he made a very a good assessment. He said, whenever in boxing, whenever you don't take your opponent seriously, you actually make that opponent more dangerous. And I thought that was a very good analogy, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I thought the announcer, man, at the end of the fight really fluffed his lines, man. Because I was like, when I saw it, I was like, oh, they gave it to Rosado. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, what? Like, I thought, I mean, that was a bit, man. I mean, come on, man. You had one job, man.
I was thinking, what part of Philadelphia is in Brooklyn? I've been to Brooklyn a few times, and I've never heard of anybody saying that they're from Philadelphia in Brooklyn. But hey, man, that was a big F up by the announcer there. He got that one wrong. You know what I mean? He'd probably find himself out of a job now. But anyway.
Yeah. Just the time we don't need, man, like with the judges and everything else. You don't want to have more controversy like that. But again, it wasn't really a fight that like many people were like salivating over when it finished. I think people were just glad that it was over, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, because the fight lacked spark and energy and it didn't live up to expectation, I think that it kind of went under the radar that it wasn't a very good decision. Because I don't know, man. I mean, on watching it, I didn't really have too much complaints with Jacobs winning, but it was one of those that it depends what you're looking for. Because there's quite a few times in there when Gabe was beating Danny to the punch and beating him to the jab. But then Danny Jacobs was the aggressor for the most part of the fight. But then even though he was the aggressor, he wasn't really landing that much. There was a lot of posturing and posing and not much going on. And then when you take that into consideration with all the pre-fight hype and all the big talk that was going on, especially from Danny Jacobs, that in itself might have swung some of the judge who voted for Rosado might have had that in the back of his mind as well. You never know, you know? So,
yeah, it has to be said that when a fighter normally does better than you expect, sometimes you can give them more rounds than you'd be like, right, man, I'll give him that round. He did all right. And where really they probably didn't win the round, but because they put up a better effort than you thought, all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, I'll give him that. Do you know what I mean? That can happen too. I'm not saying that's the case with Rosado, but I'm just saying that that's a common thing as well.
It was a very flat performance by Danny Jacobs, and I think he'll struggle to get a big fight after this.
Yeah.
Definitely in the twilight years. And if I was him, I would try and secure a big fight, get really motivated and give it one last push. Because like I said, he's definitely in the twilight years. You can see it.
Yeah.
And he's not the same fighter that he was a few years ago. I think that's obvious based on that performance the other day.
For sure. Well, listen, man, we're going to wrap it up a bit early today because I know you've got things to do as well. And we weren't even going to be a podcast this week. It was going to be, we were recording it later. Normally record it a day before, but we've managed to squeeze one in for you guys. And we've cut it short by about 10 minutes. But listen, we've still provided some sort of content for you all. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to my dad once again for joining. And let's look forward to this weekend's fights, man. Some big fights this weekend. And we've also got a very big show next weekend, AJ against Pulev. Quickly, just have to say this, man. I'm sorry for Lawrence Okoli, man, because I really wanted to see him against Glowacki. But Glowacki obviously pulled out due to COVID-19 being testing positive. So my thoughts go out to him. But final words on you before we close out.
Yeah, man. Great being on the show again, man. Love the show and love being on it. Great talking about boxing, which, as you know, is one of my big passions. So yeah, man, great. What I would say as well, at this time of the year, in the lead up to Christmas in December, you always get some real high-profile fights. And this year is no exception. And we need that after the 2020 that we've had, man. It's good to see that now that we've got fights, you know what I mean? And it's good to see as well that with Joshua's fight, they're saying that could be up to 1,000 people being allowed in, which is fantastic. So yeah, man, onwards and upwards. You know what I mean? Let's keep it moving. Yeah, man, some great fights featuring some great fighters. And I'm looking forward to it immensely.
For sure, man. Well, that wraps up another week. Thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Like, share the video. Let's get it out there for people to see. And thank you to all the regular guys that tune in. I get some very positive comments on there. So thank you guys for watching. And we'll catch you all next week.
Definitely, man. Look forward to it.